Okay.
First question.
Yes.
Why do you make art?
I suppose I'm making work to understand what I am, what my role is, and how I function as a human being. But by doing that, I'm trying to understand the nature of the world that we exist within. So it's a bit like a sketchbook, really. I don't know what's going on, so I do these things to try and work things out. It's a new, I suppose, a question. My reason for making art changed quite dramatically around about the time I lost my leg, in actual fact. Previously, I made art because I like drawing and I wanted to make beautiful things. I thought I was going to be an illustrator. And I started studying and training and painting. I thought, oh, I'm Rembrandt. I wasn't. But then when I got to art college, everything was fast-paced. I was working and studying, and my output was just an emotional outburst onto the canvas, very expressionistic. This expressive output started to focus in on a problem that I had, which was about if two people, let's say that two people are discussing and they're both right, how do you resolve this? So it's about resolution, I suppose, and the difficulties that come when there are fixed points of view. The world's more grey than this. I was still dramatically uninformed about everything at this point. I was still flipping burgers for a living, and my process of making art at that point was about understanding this and just doing a very personal investigation of how you can heal things and bring them together when everyone is correct, and there's this contradiction in terms. Then it was after my accident that I had this time about 2 years, to sit on my ass and read and think, and these questions of absolute value led themselves into this understanding. Well, if I'm struggling, and how do I behave? How do I act? What are my values? First, I need to understand what I am. And what I am is obviously I'm part of this world. And what is this world? So there was a chain of investigations that had to follow.
What does your art practice say about you?
I've learned things about me that I wouldn't ordinarily have understood, and it's also busted some pretty strong preconceptions that I had, and made it clear that I'm not the person I thought I was. Perhaps few of us are. I think it's shown me that I can be quite tenacious and pragmatic. There's a hard degree of doggedness to facilitate this pursuit of my career as an artist. There was an example, a residency I had in Southampton a few years ago, and that was about working with a group of Asian ladies, looking at marginalisation and disability in society. And so what I wanted to do was look at the idea of control and take control away from them, so they were in an uncertain environment. And I realised that I was being very disingenuous with this project. I was expecting them to operate in a situation of uncertainty and out of control, whereas I was expecting myself to be in complete control. And it was at that point that I realised that as an artist, perhaps I'm a lot more controlling and more controlling than I expected myself to be, as I thought I was a very relaxed, easy, calm, easy-go person, but not at all. A light went off in my head when that happened, and so since that point, every time I work or put an exhibition on or work with people, I always try to put some type of ingredient in the mix that ensures that I haven't got complete control. whether it's an element of collaboration, whether it's a degree of uncertainty.
What ideas, interests or concepts inspire your work?
There was, for me, a light bulb, another light bulb moment that went off when I was still studying at college, and that was the notion that the reality of the world as we see it is not what it is.
Yeah.
It's actually a reversal of that. It's constructed by our own perceptions, by our own faculties of understanding. When we see the world, we see this table, we see these things around us, and quite naturally you assume that that's what there is, a very fixed, permanent, platonic way of seeing reality, this universe, whatever. Because we are physically limited, even things like electron microscopes, we can see electrons, but we're not seeing the electron. What we're seeing is something which is mediated through a device. We don't actually see these things, we know of them. So this perceptual prison that we're in, this unknowability, is that's just fantastic. I just love it a bit. I used to paint, make objects, things, and now make installations and artwork out of dust.
Yeah.
That's a difficult object to pass on. It's a much harder way to exist as an artist, but it's what I want to do, it's what I need to do. So when I make an installation, I still see it as a three-dimensional painting, and the composition, and I see myself as stepping inside this painting that burst holographically into life. So when I will compose an installation and weigh up the content and the values of objects within a space accordingly, and still just think of it as a painting. But at the same time, I'm so used to working with installation now that's expanded, and I now see everything as an installation. It's initially it was just the studio space, then it was the gallery space, an exhibition space, or wherever I was working at the time. But when it becomes habitual to see things in terms of rhythms, forms and balances and interactions, that ceases to be limited at the initial conditions of an artwork. You see it everywhere. With these thoughts on processing rhythm and finding its form within things, and relationships between not just particles or books or whatever, or bits of wood or potatoes or sticks, what I'm working with. It's also the architecture in the space. It's how people interact with them. It's relationships between the people themselves. It's how the spatial connections between people sitting in space. I think quite often it's a default setting that you need to take things apart and break it apart to look for differences, to learn about it. See, why is that different from that? Why is that different from that? Personally, I find it more useful to see why is that connected to that? Why is that similar to that?
What is your definition of success?
One thing that I found myself doing is, when I'm trying to work, is sidestep the issue of success and failure and try to make it irrelevant. I try to look at both ends of the scale. What happens if it's too successful? Like if you can have people arrive, and what if too many people arrive? Or if no one arrives? And devise a thing that's flexible enough to encompass both ends.